My job was the discussion director and my task was to generate some questions around the big ideas of the story. The first question, why do you think that Thomas decided to remember that memory about his first day of school and his dad dying when he probably had nicer ones?
My answer is I think he didn't want to forget his dad, and when you feel guilty about something, you don't forget it.
I think he was thinking about that because he found something of his dad's. Like he found something that his dad owned and he remembered it.
I think he decided to remember about his dad's death in the first day of school because he didn't want his dad's memory to fade away, or that day was so clear in his mind he couldn't think about anything else.
I think he didn't decide to remember it. It was just so bad that he couldn't forget it.
I think it is because that memory was so vivid in his mind he couldn't not think about it. Also, he might be remembering from the start of his life to the present. George?
I think he just can't forget them because they are so sad.
At the start of the story, who do you think had just left and what did they want with Thomas?
I think it was someone saying that Thomas had to enroll and go fight in the war.
I think it means that his fellow troops are in the mess hall or something while he sleeps and dreams about his memories.
I think someone from the army has come to take people away, but he avoided it.
I think the officers came to say you're now eligible for the war and you must fight.
I think it's to do with enrolling for the war.
I think they wanted Thomas for going to enroll for the war when he was older, maybe, and fight for his land to do honour.
Last question. What do you think it means when Thomas says an end of my beginning?
I think it means that he finished something and now he has to start something else.
I think Thomas is treating school so badly that he thinks he's going to die.
I think he has heard of all the horrible stories about Mr. Munnings and is so scared.
I think that because of all the awful stories about Mr. Munnings, he thinks he will have a bad time at school and wonders if he will even make it through the first week.
I think if he did go to war, he would die at the beginning of his life.
I think it means if he goes to war, he'll probably die.
How do you think his father's death will impact the family/community?
It will hit the community with grief and sorrow because they lost a great worker and a great family member.
I think it will make the community gloomy and tearless and not want to do anything fun now that one of their own has gone to live in the afterlife.
The community will be very sad and mourn for a while, but they'll eventually get over it.
I think it will badly impact the family because there's no man in the house to earn money.
Thomas's father was the lifeline of the family. They'll have to work harder and the community will feel his loss because he played a big role.
I'm the travel tracer and my job is to track where the action takes place. Number one, the action is Thomas's dad getting crushed by a great tree while trying to get Thomas out of the way, who was standing frozen to the spot. Thomas was feeling really upset and gutted and blaming himself as the cause. It took place in Forkscleve Wood, where Thomas's father works as a forester or a lumberjack, cutting down trees and splitting them for firewood. Number two is the action is Thomas meeting Mr. Munnings on his first day of school. Mr. Munnings explaining how things work around the school and frightening Tomo with his nasty voice and aggressive behaviour. It took place at the schoolhouse with Charlie, where Tomo was starting his first day of school after his dad passed away. Number three, the action, Thomas and his family saying goodbye to Thomas's dad and the sparrow flying about. Tomo and his family are feeling very forlorn and gloomy and not very cheery. It takes place at the church where they always go to say their prayers to God. now they are saying goodbye to James, who was crushed by a falling tree trying to save Tomo. Now they want to be close to James in the afterlife.
I'm Wordmaster, and a word I got is boisterous, noisy, energetic, and cheerful and rowdy. That's boisterous. Another word is reprieved, abandoned or postpone the punishment. Another word is forelocks, a lock of hair growing just above the forehead, normally on a horse. Another word is hymns, religious songs you sing at church.
This is the connector, and my job is to make connections between the book and, here we go. Thomas's loneliness. George has felt alone before because all his friends has played with other friends. This made him feel very alone. Thomas didn't know how to tie his shoes. Kids all around the world don't know how to tie shoes. Text the world. Henry, Troy, Amy, Ben, George and Kelly have all been taught to tie their shoes, which made them happy. Text to self. This text is about a father dying. George has read a book with people dying in it. This is like private, peaceful text to text. George has cut down trees before, like Thomas Peaceful's dad. Text to self. The dead mouse. Henry has buried a dead animal before, which made him very happy. Text to self. Thomas's eggs. Troy and George have taken birds' eggs out of a nest before, which made them laugh. Text to self.
Okay, the main point the author is making is that sometimes bad things happen and you need to accept them and not let them overcome you. In my own words, the story so far is about a kid that does not want to go to school because he has heard of all the bad things and the mean teacher, and he does not want to get the cane. Another name for the story / article could be Birds of War, because birds are mentioned a lot in the book so far, and it would be a good name because Birds of War is also named for airplanes. So, the story so far is mostly about Thomas's dad saving him from a falling tree but killing himself in the process. So far it has been about Thomas and his family grieving about the loss of their father. If I had to explain this part of the story to someone else, I would say Thomas's dad took him with him while he went to work in the forest. Thomas was making a wooden cross for a dead mouse that he found when a big tree started to fall towards him. He froze and his dad shouted a warning, ran over and pushed him out of the way, but he was hit by the tree and crushed.
I'm the illustrator and the passage picker, and these are my drawings. That's Tomo's untied shoes. That's the box full of all the dad stuff. That's the tree. And that's the Mr. Munning's pocket watch. My first passage. In the church, we're sitting side by side in the front row, Mother, Big Joe, Charlie and me. I picked this passage because I think it's good for the family to stay close to Father even in the afterlife. Mother had put his pipe in first, then Charlie laid his hobnail boots side by side, curled into each other sleeping. Big Joe knelt down and covered the boots in Father's old scarf. I picked this passage because I think it's cool how they do their own service for their father. Aha, he cries, pointing right at me. Everyone has turned to look. A new boy to add to my trials and tribulation. Was not one peaceful enough? What have I done to deserve another one? I picked this passage because I think it's funny how a teacher can tell that there's another peaceful in the school.